and gentlemen, welcome to Obsessive Sneaker Disorder. This is, for those of you who are experiencing Obsessive Sneaker Disorder for the first time, this is a little bit of backstory on who we are. We're the first sneaker podcast in the industry, started in 2007, and the longest running with, before today, 365 episodes, over 750 hours of programming, 10 million audio downloads, hundreds of thousands of video views, and from that, we, in 2011, started the Social Studies Sneaker Industry Education Program. The first, officially for a Division I school, Drexel University, we have residents, but we also teach online, and we also teach private sessions. Anyone interested, that'll be a separate conversation. But just to let you know that the people you have in front of you here, we are very passionate and skilled and experienced in being able to sit here and share with you today what we do with our illustrious guest. His name is Mr. Scoop Jackson. Round of applause for him. So D.
So now I'm official since I'm on
Now
the
you're
show.
official.
Now I'm official.
Finally.
Finally official.
Right,
Finally.
because
I'm finally
Finally.
official.
this is your first time on the show
Yeah,
now.
right,
Yes,
right.
sir.
I'm finally official.
First
Right.
time.
But what people don't realize right now is we're actually doing this at the African American Footwear Forum in Portland, Oregon, the second iteration of it, which is special because you think about all the people that have traveled from near and far to be here in Portland, Oregon now.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've taken some time off, but we haven't stopped producing, we haven't stopped sharing, we haven't stopped telling stories,
Right.
aka kick stories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But now the key is we've never had you on the show.
I know,
Yeah.
but it's appropriate because the whole African American Footwear Forum is, it's about us. So, and we're telling stories about us and our involvement from different levels in not shoe industry, but shoe culture.
Absolutely.
And sneaker culture. So it's appropriate that I'm on in this time, in this space.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I appreciate it. And I'm honored and thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Thanks
No
for
doubt.
thanks for joining
for
us.
being here with
Anytime,
us,
man.
Scoop. As a trailblazer and a vanguard in what ultimately became this whole sneaker journalism industry and form of expression for our love of sneakers.
Right.
How you feel being where we are today with knowing where your journey began and all the experiences and the stories.
Great. I love it because it's like all the passion that we put into it from a storytelling standpoint and trying to bring what many of us looked at as a subculture, into the light, and for that light to shine and illuminate so brilliantly and so vastly, especially because it was done at the time when digital became a thing,
Right.
when the internet became a thing, so it gave a breath of fresh air to that subculture. So now it's not even considered a subculture anymore.
Right.
It is a basic, functional, breathing culture in American and global society right now. So to, come from us, telling stories of sneakers in the back of Slam magazine, to where it is now, it's beautiful. I mean, you really, because that's what you want to happen to things you're involved in, things you're passionate about. You'd like to see them live the life that they're supposed to live. And those of us who have been into sneakers for a long time, and that's been our, one of our life's passions, to see, something that is your life passion finally live the life that you felt that it should live is a gratifying thing. Because you're not the only one.
Right.
And all of us OG sneakerheads, or sneaker snobs, as we tend to call us older dudes, because we get real snobbish as we get older. It's cool to know that we're not the only ones in the room anymore. It's very similar to what comic book nerds are experiencing right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, they used to think, well, I was only one, or I was maybe one or two in my school or on my block that was really, really deep into comics, And come to find out, because of, digital one thing, but also the investment of Marvel and what Marvel's become as a global organization, as an entity, they're like, well, damn, there was more than just me, one or two on my block. There's millions of us now, and now that culture is living the life it's supposed to live. So, we're seeing things parallel in the way things are going. So I feel no different about the way sneaker culture has gone, and I'm happy for it.
So seeing how things have changed so much, and we have gone digital, take us back just for a little bit.
Okay.
Take a couple steps back. Let's go back to where you grew up and your first kind of sneaker experience where either sneakers made an impact on your life or maybe someone even close to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Came up in Chicago, south side of Chicago. Started off on 47th Street and then moved over into South Shore. Started off on 71st Street, which I actually live not too far away. I've never left South Shore since I was 5 years old. So around that time, Chuck Taylors were the sneaker. You know, everybody was rocking Chuck Taylors. They were rocking them on the court and even casually, you know, where my uncles and we were doing PF flyers as kids, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we hadn't graduated to the Converse All-Stars yet.
So Chuck Taylor's was a step up from the PF Flyers.
Yeah, because, you know what I mean, at that young age, you were dealing with your parents bought you. So, you know, they're like, all right, you know, my dad would have his Chuck Taylors, but he'd take us to community, you know, local shop, and y'all are getting the PF Flyers, y'all getting the Skippies, and there you go, you haven't graduated. So what happened to me was there was a sports store that was not in our neighborhood, but it was, you know, on the south side. It was called Savoy Sports Store. It was on 79th and Cottage Grove. It was a couple of miles from my crib. And on their little awning thing, you know, Chuck Taylor All-Stars, $9.99. So I'm like,
$9.99?
$9.99. That's how much they were back then. And I'm like, at that time, I'm like maybe in 3rd or 4th grade. So I'm like, all right, I got to find a way to get $9.99.
Quick.
So I'm washing dishes, what we call busting suds back in the day. You know that. So
Busting suds, yep.
I wash the dishes for $1. I'm getting that push lawnmower. I'm cutting people's grass. Give me another $1. I'm doing that because I'm going to get my $9.99. Because what happened at that time was Converse stopped making just black and white gym shoes. They had bounced into the primary colors. And with the colors came the change of colors on the piping. So the red and the blue piping was on the outer sole of the shoe. And if you really know the history of Converse Chuck Taylors, you used to be able to turn the tongue over, and it had a label plate for you to put your name or graffiti your name on it.
That's right.
So the older cats, I was like in my single digits. The teenagers, that's what they were doing. You know what I'm doing?
Flipping that tongue.
Flipping the tongue. And also, remember you used to crochet your shoes and do the
Oh,
different
man,
laces.
the laces, yep.
All that stuff was going on, and I'm like, all right, I gotta get my $9.99. So
Quick.
finally got my Finally got my $9.99. I can't remember what my first color was. I think it was orange. Because it was red, orange, blue, and green. And then there was still the black and white.
So black and white, yeah.
So, you know, I got my oranges, then I had to get some more money to go back so I could get the orange laces.
Oh.
Because you had to stay fly.
Yeah.
So that was when I was like, this is more than just shoe stuff, because it was something about being in possession of that. And it wasn't just being cool. You know, it was just something like, yo, this made me feel a certain way, because this is what all the older kids, everybody was rocking, and now you felt like you were a part of something.
Tapped into that.
Right, and I was like a young, and I'm like, yo, this is I finally got my first pair of Chuck Taylors. I got to script my name in, you know, do my name right. And at my point, I was fly. You know, you go to sleep and you put them over your bed. You look, you know, you wake up in the morning, right? You're like, oh, they still there and all this. So that's when it started, but it didn't last long for me, because right around that same period of time, and being a basketball head, Walt Frazier had signed a deal with Puma.
Yeah.
And Walt Frazier was like iconic, especially in Chicago. He was iconic in New York. He played for the Knicks. But he had Chicago roots, and he went to Southern Illinois University, and he was like a legend there. And his son was at the same school I was going to at the time.
Look at that.
Walt Jr. So there was a connection to Walt Frazier. And when he signed that deal with Puma, that changed the game, because in our minds, he was really the first athlete to have his own signature shoe. And he had Clyde on the side right above, you know, the logo. And it's like, oh, man, those are hot. Now, both of my parents were affiliated with the Black Panther Party. So, and if you know, back in the 70s, back in the day, you know, we were on this black power, black freedom, black liberation, you know, movement where, you know, our dashiki spoke for us, our afro spoke for us, our bracelet spoke for us. You know what I'm saying?
Statements and a lot of different
everything,
things that you
everything. That's what we were on. You know, we were in a movement. So Puma released a red, black, and green Clyde.
Ooh.
Right.
Which I don't think was ever released again.
Right. I was in 5th or 6th grade at the time.
Game changer.
The Chuck Taylor thing was quick, because I was like, I gotta have those.
Time for Clydes.
Right, I gotta have those. So I forgot how I got them. And Savoy Sports Store had them at their store. They had them in the window. You know, so I'm like, you know, you're speaking, and I tell you that story because that took the whole sneaker thing to another level because it wasn't about your personal aesthetic. It became, this shoe meant something more than just you wearing it. This was a statement shoe.
This was something that once people saw it on your feet.
Or once you had it on your feet, you were like, yo, I'm a part of a movement. You know what I'm saying? I'm a part of something bigger than just me. Yeah. So those two stories really connected me to get into sneakers because one, I had a personal connection to the Chuck Taylor because I really wanted it because it was a cool thing and it meant something. But then just a couple of years later, that red, black, and green Clyde Frazier shoe was me being a kid and still feeling like I was involved in something greater than me, that spoke to something greater than me.
Powerful.
Yeah,
Powerful.
Exactly. So that's kind of where, you know, my thing come from.
I wonder why Puma has not released that colorway ever again.
They might. They're going through it, you know, they're going through
Who knows? They may be digging in their
current
archives,
collection
right?
Of things and the statements
You
they
never
make,
know.
to their credit, have been noteworthy. We'll say that.
Well, like when I think about like iconic colorways that they did a black, yellow, and green for Usain Bolt, and tied it to, of course, Jamaica, right? And we've long said this on the show, like they had one of the best
Athletes in the
world and totally dropped the ball when it came to marketing him.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you think about that story, red, black, and green. I mean, the Pan-African colors, especially now in this day and light, in this current climate.
Let me add another component there, especially now with the retro phase being what it is, and they can actually, instead of dealing with the new iterations that they're doing, they can literally go back and re-release that particular Clyde buddy, that shoe.
Wow.
Well, you know what's funny about the Clyde, right? So here's the interesting thing about the Clyde,
How hard the rubber was
right?
at the bottom, that it didn't bend?
That was an interesting one. That was definitely a true one. Over time, they never bent.
Man, dude, we used to hoop in those. It's amazing.
But I think one of the things, just from a sneaker historian perspective for us, which is, you know, even in, you know, an anecdote to the story that you're telling, the Puma Clyde isn't a retro, the shoe itself, because they've never stopped making it.
Good point.
That's
Okay,
true.
So
right, I got you. Okay.
That's one of the shoes, in the entire industry that they have never stopped making.
Chuck Taylor never stopped making.
Chuck Taylor, of
So
course,
Chuck
is the
Taylor-
highest selling sneaker of all time.
Superstar never stopped.
I was gonna say, the
making.
Superstar.
Superstar never got
Exactly.
making. Okay.
So
Wow.
it would be nothing for them to just simply go ahead and do that.
That's true.
Nothing.
That's true.
You know, but I want to take it somewhere else in terms of the emotional connection to something bigger than yourself, and this is something that I don't want to quote it to the letter, but something that I heard you said that's very profound in that, taking it to your sneaker journalism history, the written word is always more powerful than any deliverable medium that we're using today. And talk about how you feel about that, especially being one of the vanguards of journalism.
I agree with that. And I'll put it in this standpoint. The publisher of Slam Magazine, Dennis Page, we used to have this argument going back and forth for years, and he's a publisher, so, he knows the business. He's like, I can sell more magazines with pictures than you can with words. And I'm like, you probably can. That's a publishing thing, and I get it because, the attention span of the audience that you're trying to reach is probably, in your mind, not that young. But I said, I have yet to see a religion that's built off of pictures.
Say that one more time for
I have
him.
yet to see a religion that's built off of pictures and images. It's built off of words. Every religion we have around the world is built off of word.
Yep.
So while you can sell more magazines, words are always going to be more powerful.
Yeah.
Always.
Facts.
So that's kind of the way I
So is that something you would have to argue at Slam all the time about? Or?
No. It was a healthy
okay.
argument. It was always a healthy argument. No, it was a healthy argument because he always gave us space. He always gave us space. I give Dennis credit. He never took away space or never felt that, what we were doing from a literary standpoint should at any point be overshadowed by something visual. It was just my point of view and like Russ's point of view and other writers at Slam Magazine, our points of views about the importance of writing and what it meant to the magazine, that area of journalism. Right. But as a publisher, and he knew that, look, these images and what we're doing now, to his point, he wasn't just doing standard images. Now he was that's what separated what we were doing over there than anything else, and especially connecting to the sneaker industry.
Okay.
If you go back to the old issues of Slam and the beginning of Slam, look at Sports Illustrated, look at Sport News, look at all the other magazines that were dealing with sports at the time. Most of the action shots that you got of players, especially in basketball, were always cut here because they were focusing on the chest and the face area.
Right.
We were giving full head-to-toe body shots. Sneaker companies loved that because they were getting shots. We were giving them shoe shots.
Marketing for them, promotion.
Right.
And that's one of the things that Dennis was doing
On purpose?
purposefully.
Okay.
So he said, I can sell more because Nike wants to fuck with me.
Right.
Adidas wants to fuck with me.
Right.
Because I'm giving them free advertising by doing everything the NBA is not doing by showing the athletes in full action.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So he was very cognizant of that. So when he says, I can sell more magazines doing pictures, you can't have words, that's a purposeful statement that he's using to put it into play, right?
Right. And I think the interesting thing about that is when you look at even Sports Illustrated before that, and you know, there was no method to their madness in terms of the sneaker shot per se.
No.
Right.
But you think about Sports Illustrated as one of the catalysts for even you take the Air Jordan 5 with the reflective tongue.
Yes.
The perspective of the visual on court,
Yes.
the full
Yes, exactly.
extension of that athlete's experience in air.
Here's the thing, they did it with their posters, because Sports Illustrated was the first place that even Nike bit off of Sports Illustrated posters. So you got the full body action shots in their posters, but they didn't use it in their magazine, which is weird. Because kids, we were buying that up. That was it. The Sports Illustrated posters on our wall, we had them.
Exactly.
All shoe shots.
Yep.
All in there. But why they didn't use that when it came to publishing, you know, from
Well, I think
I
think that
it was
lends
a size,
itself.
I don't know.
I think it lent itself to the counter of Dennis with your argument of the word being more of importance
True. I can see that.
than the visual. I think they were the counter that supported your argument.
Right.
And for us, with Sports Illustrated, it was that poster, it was that cover shot. But a lot of us actually really read Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, we did.
Absolutely.
We did. And they
We
had the
read
best
it.
writers in the world, and they still release that. I'm thinking about it from a magazine standpoint, and me being a magazine like nerd or whatever. You're right, because at that time, all of the imagery that was dealing with print media went to Life magazine. You know what I'm saying? And the concentration, and with Life, I think at the time they were still both under Time Life, so they were owned by the same company.
Yep.
You know, they didn't transfer that importance for photojournalism to Sports Illustrated to that degree. And let Life handle that.
They
We're dealing
definitely
with this.
gave a priority to
Yeah.
the sports writer
Right.
and the journalistic perspective, which, you know, again, to
Even
move
though
into-
Walter Iles became pretty iconic through Sports
Because of
Illustrated.
Sports Illustrated,
But it
of
was more
course.
for portraits than
Right.
it was for action. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
So, but for you, you know, knowing that, think about where we are now with, you know, again, you mentioned attention spans and the need for people to be captivated, and the amount of time that we keep them is shorter. How do you manage that now? And when you're doing your storytelling, has your perspective changed because of that?
Not really from a perspective standpoint. I've just tried to focus on being very cognizant about how I use my words and how much faster I have to be
To the point.
impactful. You know, and as a conversation I was having yesterday, and I don't want to say this the wrong way and have anybody get offended, but not using social media outlets to take away from using that same space for something greater as a column or a story.
Okay.
Like, I don't waste a good, fly, dope sentence and put it on Twitter when I know I can use that small, dope sentence, you know.
Very good.
I got
Article.
140 or 300 characters to use in Twitter. I'm like, oh, that'd be a dope line I could just throw out there, you know, even to tease a story. I'm like, why not just put it in the story with some context around it and make it stronger?
Right.
So, you know, that type of thinking has allowed, I think, the work to still stay relevant because I'm not taking anything away from the mindset of being impactful just in a shorter frame space to
And the
to make
value
these
of your written work.
Right, exactly.
That's
exactly.
awesome. I
I mean, there's
Exactly.
power. There's power in there. Again, like when you go back to talking about athletes that you've interviewed, or again, a sneaker moment in time.
Right.
You know, I always think about the vignettes in even Soul Provider.
Yeah, we're gonna talk
Like,
about that.
right,
yeah.
right.
There's so many stories in there that
Right.
makes people like say, "Oh, I want more."
Right.
Was that on purpose?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. And you know, there was a lot of things that were purposeful in the book, and from a writer standpoint, from an author standpoint, I looked at that project as a book.
Okay.
And to the imagery standpoint, the guy who really booked is Ray Butts' book. He was his genius. He was the one behind the book. But he came with the same kind of mindset that Dennis had about imagery. And if you look at that book, that book is just, forget what I wrote. You can take what I wrote out of that, and that book is amazing.
True.
Just the beauty of it. And Ray would challenge me day to day, week to week, month to month while we were putting that book together. And he'd like, all right, this is the shot I'm doing for the foam posit. You better bring some heat to the table. And it wasn't just a shot of a foam posit. He took a
Like
foam
the
posit
Beetle.
and dropped. No. Was the foam posit the foam? Huh? The flight posit.
Was it the
flight?
flight
It was the
posit?
flight posit. Sorry, the flight
Okay.
posit. Foam posit was the Beetle because that was the Penny Hardaway. The flight posit was but he showed me everything. But I'm using the flight posit as the example. Like he dipped it in an aquarium.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And you saw the bubbles coming up like it was a fish. He's like, good luck outwriting that. He would do that all the time. And I'm like, oh,
He's like, balls in your court.
Exactly, right. So it was the power of me trying to match or beat his imagery. When he showed me what he did with the blazer and put it on
man.
like
On the ice.
on a no. He
that
put
one?
George Gervin was like he put it on a mink rug. It's a white mink rug.
Wow.
That blue suede
Oh, the
blazer
that's
is
probably-
on, and I'm
That's
like,
right.
this fool here.
Talk about raising the bar. in you
Right.
every time.
So, but I'm looking at this as, all right, I'm getting challenged, and then once again, I've been challenged by cats who creative and visually creative, looking at imagery.
Yep.
All right, I gotta bring this every day. I gotta bring it
Wow.
every day. And Ray challenged me to do that, so I bought what I thought was equivalent to what he was doing visually.
Okay. Right.
That's fine, but I looked at it as a book. Ray, from the very beginning, had this as a gateway. He knew that this book, if done properly and correctly, was going to usher in and be spoken about
Oh, yeah.
for 25, 30 years.
How many people actually?
How many people here
copies
have
of Soul
actually?
Provider?
Yeah, Soul Provider. Raise your hands. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So and once again, my approach to that was like, all right, man, I'm gonna try to write the dopest book. As we say in the industry, I'm gonna try to dead this. And when we say we dead this, we try to write stuff in a way that
No
after
one
it's
will
done,
ever
nobody else
wanna
can follow
touch
it.
it.
Right? Nobody is dead. Nobody can touch it. In Ray's mind, Ray was on such a higher level of thinking of that. I'm trying to just get the best out of myself and deaden the whole thing. Like, nobody's ever going to write a sneaker book again.
Yeah.
Like, Bobito's going to be mad at me after I write this thing. That's what I was on. Ray was on some, like, I want this to be so much bigger than just a book. And he knew what he was doing with it. And that's part of his genius.
About
So,
seeing ahead, yeah.
yeah, visually seeing ahead what this had the power to do, not necessarily inside Nike, but for the entire sneaker culture.
Well, when we started our social studies program in 2011, we had a list of recommended books, and Soul Provider is definitely one of
Oh,
those
thank you.
books.
Appreciate that.
For the reason that we saw the value in not just the pictures, but for us and our students,
Those
that
stories.
written word, that
Yeah.
context to these shoes. Because one perspective behind it, when we launched in 2011, was these were shoes people already owned,
Right.
but they were never able to really see some of the perspective and the knowledge and the history that went into the creation of them.
Here, I'm not trying to like cut you off or
No,
on
go
top
for
of you,
it,
but
go for it.
What it was all we tried. Everybody had those shoes, but they never knew the story from the shoes perspective.
Exactly.
That's all we try to do.
Exactly.
Like, look, if these shoes could speak,
This is what they would
Exactly.
say.
this is what they would say. That's it. So
Yeah.
you had them, but you never knew the shoe story. And not from the outside looking in, from the life that each one of those shoes lived.
Right.
Now, you had your own personal experience with the shoe. You had your own personal experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But nobody got a chance to hear what the shoe had to say. And that was the approach we came with. Like, look, these shoes have a life of their own,
That's really
all
dope.
50 of them. So let's tell their story. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Let's tell the
that's-
story from the
that's-
inside. And that's kind of what it was.
Ray
Like,
pushed you
yeah, Ray.
to the level where those stories, honestly, personally, they're timeless
Yeah, we tried to make it that way.
in that regard because, again, how many people really tell it from the shoe perspective? We get the athlete, we get the designer. The way that was, so skillfully crafted from a literary perspective. That's why we kind of recommended that as sort of necessary reading for if
Right.
you were serious about being one of the students in our program.
But one of the things too, I think a lot of people geeked out about, I know I certainly did, was especially seeing the sketches from the designers with their little notes
I give
on
Nike
them.
credit. That was the first time that had been done.
So I had never seen a lot of that
nobody
before.
ever seen that before, right?
So that was like a new thing, like, ooh, okay, so so-and-so designed that, and look at their notes, talking about the stitching here, placement of logo, material.
Yeah, I mean, that's everywhere now, but
Right.
back then when we did
That
the
was
book, that had
brand-
not been done.
No.
Nobody had ever seen that before. Nobody had gone that deep. And credit to Nike for really opening up the gates. I give them credit. They, when they had me do the book, they really were like all access. Like, whatever, we not hiding. Look, we not hiding shit. Go tell the stories you want to tell. Now, before this thing get released, you got to meet with our lawyers. But go out and tell whatever story. And they gave me access as if they were trying to sign me to, like they were trying to sign LeBron. Seriously, like whatever you want, whatever you need. So I met with everybody, and I think through me speaking with them and me interviewing everybody from Tinker to Mark Parker to Eric Ava to Howard White to, Peter Bauman, Bruce Kilgore, all the cats that go through Nike's whole thing, and they don't even have names, they have numbers, because they were like number 3 employee, number 5 employee, talking to all those cats and getting all those stories and opening up the gates too, like, all right, and they were the ones like, look, all right, you want to know how the Air Max started? Here, let me show you. And they're going into their vaults and showing like the first renditions of, and I'm like, oh shit, and you're looking at it like, so, and they're explaining this to you. And they're like, if you want it for the book, here, you can take it. But, right, so they're like, oh shit, for real?
You're like, what? Wait, for real?
Right, and they're like, yeah, make sure they return it, but it was all internal, so it knew it wasn't gonna leave anywhere.
Right.
So just having those experiences, I think, made the book that much richer. Yeah, it made the experience that much richer. Yeah.
Cool. Dope. So, I mean, if you haven't, or if you need to revisit the
Definitely
experience
get it.
now after we have Scoop talking about it, definitely pick up a copy of Soul Provider. We want to make sure
Here's a funny story behind it. Good luck getting your hands on one.
Okay.
Contractually, with Nike, my contract with them for that book, I was supposed to get 40 copies of the book, and I did get 40 copies of the book mailed to me.
And
They asked for 36 back. I'm dead serious. I have 2 copies of that book. That's it, because 2 went away, but I literally only have 2 copies of that book. They wanted 36 back.
What is that?
I lie to myself and say maybe high demand. I don't know.
We're not trying to get him in trouble.
No, it's not trouble. That's good. That was a long time ago.
Got to go on eBay now and try to buy one.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to.
Man.
You have to.
But we want to get you to tell one of your legendary stories that a lot of us who get the privilege of hearing you tell those, we want to get you to tell one. Do you have one in preference or story you want to hear?
Oh, I want to hear that Iverson story.
The one about me leaving Slam Magazine?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Because
no, because it's funny because I'm laughing.
everyone was speculating on like Nike Talk and all these message boards and stuff like that.
For real?
Oh. People were like making, I call it MSUing. It's called making shit up.
Right.
Everyone was making shit up of why.
Of why what?
Why you left.
Yeah.
But I didn't leave.
Exactly.
Oh, no, you're talking about why I left ultimately?
Ultimately.
Like
right.
11 years later?
Right.
Okay. No.
11 years later.
Yeah.
People like no one really knew.
Well,
and
it's funny. Okay, I'll answer that question. I'll go back into it. And it's funny because now, as I think about it, they're all connected.
Yeah, exactly.
I left because there were no many Allen Iverson. There was nothing more to say about Allen Iverson. I had done like 6. I mean, I couldn't. I got tired of writing about Allen Iverson. To be honest, I just got tired of writing about it. That's my man. like he's my man Wavy, he's my man a billion, that's my dude for life, but I couldn't, there was no more Iverson stories to tell.
Like,
And I was like, I gotta go, I
It's
gotta
dead.
do something else. I gotta do something else.
But to put it in context, you were the first one to put him on a magazine.
That's kind of
Right,
what it boils
first.
down to. Now here,
Right.
so let's bring this full circle, and it goes back to Dennis Page and the differences of how we look at things. I was in New York at the U.S. Open because my father and I, that was our pilgrimage. We'd go to the U.S. Open together. He and his boys used to go to Super Bowl together, and I was young because he and his black folks, we're amazing when we decide to do things. My father and his boys used to take $20 out of every paycheck they got and put it in a jar. And at the end of the year, they would use that money to go to the Super Bowl every year. Wow. That was their thing. That was their Super Bowl money, right? So in 1986, when the Bears, Chicago Bears are there, it was in New Orleans. I was in school in New Orleans.
Bears and Patriots, right?
Bears Patriots, exactly. So my father's whole crew was in New Orleans, so I got to hang with them because I was in school there. And drinking age in New Orleans was still 18. In Louisiana was 18. Yeah. So I really got to hang with them for the first time, right? Mm-hmm. So I hung on parents, Super Bowl, all of the Bears in the good. A couple of years later, when I got old enough, I met them in San Diego for the Super Bowl. And my father and his friends were like, all right, we've done this, and I did it twice. They had done it like 20 years. Wow. They're like, all right, we're done. The Super Bowl thing, we've done it. It's cool. We'll start going to everybody's city to go see each other.
Cable TV has high def now. We're good.
Right. And I'm mad because now I'm grown enough to go, and I'm starting to put my little $20 away so I can meet them. And now y'all shut it down. So my dad's like, well, shit, why don't we just do, me and you do our own thing? And we're both tennis-like lovers. My father played tennis in college. I've been playing tennis all my life, so, that was our thing. He's like, let's go to U.S. Open.
Bet.
Cool, bet. So U.S. Open was my father's, and that was our pilgrimage. We did it every year. One year, after it was Allen Iverson going into his freshman year at Georgetown. Oh man. I got a call from somebody, and I forgot who gave me the call, but the Kenner tournament was going on in D.C. And Kenner tournament is like it's DC's version of the Pro-Am.
Pro-Am or Rucker.
Yeah, the Pro-Am or Rucker or LA. Julie, exact same thing. And Iverson, they're like, you gotta see this dude. You gotta see this dude. Allen Iverson, Georgetown? Matter of fact, it was going into his sophomore year. I said, Allen Iverson, Georgetown, the defensive player of the year in the Big East? They're like, yeah, you got to see. He's averaging 50 up here on pros. You got to come see this. And I'm like, all right. I'm in New York. So I'm like, Dad, I'm going to grab this, after U.S. Open, instead of flying back to Chicago, I hiked to D.C. Found out what game he was playing in, got there late. I got to this game at halftime. All right, and as I'm walking in, I'm looking for Iverson, and I'm looking, and he's standing over there on the sideline. He spent the entire halftime arguing with whoever dude was the coach. Like, they're arguing. And if you all know Allen Iverson, he don't argue quietly. They're arguing. I look at the score. His team is down by 22. I asked the cat, so what's Iverson got? He said he got about 20. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I don't know what to argue, but he's down by 22, so I'm getting mad about something, right? And all I got to say is this. His team won, and he finished with 62. At that moment, I'm sitting there watching this cat, and he's like killing. I called publisher of Slam Magazine. I'm like, Dennis, we got to put Allen Iverson on the cover next issue. He's like, we've never had a college player on the cover of issue of Slam Magazine. Nobody knows who the fuck Allen Iverson is. I'm like, I don't care. Allen Iverson is the next Baron Davis.
Welcome, Baron.
What up, BD? So seriously, and we go back and forth, and I'm like, this got to happen. So like the next day, I go back to New York, going to the office of Slam. We're having this argument, and I'm talking to Dennis Page like in my mind, I've seen the future basketball. I'm like, this dude is the future. I'm telling you, what I watched this dude do. And we'll argue back and forth, and I'm like, Dennis, look, man. And I'm not saying that I would have done it. I don't know. My black ass has done crazy things before. I'm like, if you don't put this dude on the cover of this magazine, I'm out. I'm done. I'm walking.
Wow.
And I don't know if he took it as a real threat or whatever, but to his point, his whole point was like, nobody knows who this cat is. We don't do college ball players. Nobody's going to buy this issue. But he said to me in that moment, it wasn't like, Scoop, don't leave, Scoop, don't leave. He was like, okay, once again, I know publishers. You know, he's like, you smart, but you think you're too smart. You think you know this game. I've been doing this for years, man. He said, okay, we'll do that. We'll put him on the cover. Nah, he's smart about it because he split the cover.
You're right.
He put Iverson on one half and Akeem Olajuwon on
the other one.
And he only sold Iverson on the East Coast where he thought he was going to be known.
Right.
So we did that. It actually turned out to be the worst selling issue in the history.
Wow.
To this day.
No.
Like even at the time, yes, and to this day, the worst selling issue ever. Like it can't. You rate magazine sales in fractions of 10. Yep. So if you get like a 40 or 50, you're doing good. That's a decent sale. Yep. If you do a 30, that's what you kind of target for.
Middle, okay.
This was in the 10s. It was horrible.
Why?
To his point, nobody knew who the fuck Allen Iverson was. It's a cat from Georgetown on the cover of a magazine making a layup. They're like, who,
Right.
Who is it? We don't know who this dude is. And I was like, all right, man, point taken, point learned. Like I said, I don't know this publishing thing. I got this writing thing, but I don't know this publishing thing. Right. He's like, but because we were the first ones, and because John Thompson granted us an interview, and we really didn't go in on the whole jail thing, we strictly talked about basketball and the culture of basketball, because that's what we did as a magazine. That's really the first time I think Chuck ever felt appreciated. As an athlete, as a black man, as a human being, as just a person.
And when you say Chuck, you're talking about his
Allen,
nickname as
Chuck, right, sorry.
Yeah,
so Allen just felt that way, and he, basically, he's the kind of guy that loves hard. So he's like, man, we ride or die. Anything, it was like, y'all my people. It really, so he felt a real affinity to Slam Magazine. So anytime we ever needed anything, he was like, I got you. So
Fast forward
to him getting the NBA, the MVP of the rookie game. Yep. And with the cornrows in his head, that the NBA was like, what the fuck, you get the trophy, all this, that, and the other. He's like, yo, we're like, can we get a shot? We want to put you. He's like, yeah, come on. Whatever y'all need, let's do it. Yep. And the NBA wanted him to put a cap on. He's like, I ain't putting no fucking cap. No, we're gonna do this shit with my cornrows. So here's a lesson learned. And this is what Tony, the editor, understood. Last time I put Allen Iverson on that magazine, it was kind of just plain. It was just him. The power of words. So, shot Allen, Philly, cornrows. Exactly. But the tagline, the words were, who's afraid of Allen Iverson? Shot at the NBA, throwing mad shade at the NBA on that shit, right? But people knew who he was at the time, but it was the who's afraid that got people in there. I think it was the third best-selling issue we had when that one dropped. Look at that. Next time he came to Allen Iverson, Mitchell and Ness was just really kind of starting, and they were like, Tony, he wanted to do a throwback issue. We were supposed to have Julius Erving on the cover. But because Mitchell and Ness had done, Tony asked them, can you do an Allen Iverson throwback? No, he said, can you do me a Hal Greer throwback and put Iverson's name on the back? That's what it was. And Mitchell and Ness did that and it's basically a Hal Greer jersey. Threw Allen Iverson's name on the back, and he's like, look, let's see if we get Allen to be on the cover of this one instead of Julius Erving. And then when they told Allen what they were trying to do, it was Allen's idea to be like, oh yes, this is throwback, let's go throwback. He has never taken his braids off for anybody. But it goes back to our point. The relationship we started with him. He trusted, like, hey, man, he felt like he's part of the family. Right. Now, that issue drops, the best-selling issue by far ever in the history of magazine. So
posters, everything.
And so Dennis and I, from that point on, the conversation, like, sometimes you got to lose $1 million to make $2 million, dog. You know this publishing shit. I know this money shit. I know this culture shit. Sometimes you got to take that hit in order to make. So he was correct in that stage about like, yeah, I'm not gonna do this because it's gonna lose me money. And I'm like I said, full story. I don't know if I would have left. You know, because there was, you know, it depends on what my wife would have said. You know, motherfucker, you leave this place without finding another money income, that shit ain't gonna happen. Stick your ass there.
Right.
Right. They like,
happen.
you better find something else before you leave this, right? So I don't know if I really would have left, but I put it out there. And it was more, and like I said, I don't think Dennis was even worried about that. He, like I said, he didn't like, no, please don't. It wasn't even that thing. He's like, oh, don't prove a point. And that was kind of our back and forth relationship for years. For 11 years, it's always a back and forth.
Right.
But I respect. But that's the full, honest, true story about how that magazine happened, but how magazines after that with Allen Iverson on it basically became the identity of Slam Magazine.
Absolutely.
So, you know what I'm saying?
Hands
So
down.
sometimes you got to look beyond money. You got to look beyond sales. You got to look beyond numbers and look at, you know, what this whole thing means in the bigger picture. And that's, you know, there it is. So there's your truth to that story.
Man, thank you.
Yo.
No problem.
Scoop, thank you very much, man.
Thank you very much.
Can I say one thing? And
Yes,
I'm not
sir.
saying that because he's here. That brother right there, no, seriously, I'm dropping the mic on this story right here.
Yeah.
I'm dropping the mic on this story. I'm dropping the mic on this story. People ask, and I'm not saying this because he's here. If you would ask me this question, you wouldn't have been here, I'd have given you the same answer.
Okay.
I get asked a lot, what is your favorite interview? Not best, favorite.
Favorite, okay.
And I always say Baron Davis, because you know why? In journalism, sometimes you ask the right question. Sometimes you just ask the right question. I asked Baron Davis, after practice and shot on the bus, I asked him one question. He gave me a 45-minute answer. I'm dead serious. But
What was the question?
what was it? How did you get to this point in your life? Yep. And he gave me his entire life story about his grandmothers and grandfather raising him. You know, with the basketball and the hoop and he gave me his entire life story in 45. I was sitting there like, this is the greatest shit ever.
Priceless.
And then did you have that story framed and put in your house or something? Yeah, yep.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Story ever articulated really about LA, because you got to think about it like LA didn't have no, like we had the Lakers.
Yep, nothing.
It wasn't no real story coming out of LA.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like there was, you gave South Central, Englewood, Santa Monica, you kind of gave it all like look at the field.
Awesome.
But once again, see, he's giving me, it was all him. It's one answer.
You asked, and he gave
He
you
answered.
his
That
story.
was it. That was it. That's how that works. So.
Baron, we didn't know you were coming today, but we want to find that right question to get another one of those out of you one day soon.
Man.
Thank you for coming, Baron.
Thank you.
Not only to me, in my opinion, not only one of the most exciting basketball players ever played, but you are also a tremendous, outstanding filmmaker.
Yeah, he is.
Absolutely.
And the owner of, I don't know if you still do it now, but he used to be the guy, and this is back to Sole Provider.
Okay.
Baron kept 100 pair of white Air Force Ones in rotation. He kept the number at 100. But look, he would mess up like 4 pair a week and get the 4 pair again. He kept 100 in rotation, always.
So, Scoop, the final question for you, and you know, just to tie a bow around it within perspective of where we are, because we are here in Portland at the second African American Footwear Forum. What's your feeling about being here and what you see when you see all of these people here with this interest in making their mark in the future, especially with the hotbed topic of diversity in our industry? How you feel about being here?
It's fucking Wakanda, man. Do I need to say it? No, that's, you know, that's what it is. This is Wakanda for this culture, man. This is really what it is. And to see, you know, everybody just getting together, I've been, as a journalist, you attend, the National Association of Black Journalists meetings and all this, that, and the other, and that's fine because that's a whole nother industry, but that's not a culture. That's an industry thing.
Right.
So you're dealing with a lot of bullshit, a lot of fakeness, a lot of, all stuff that's really unnecessary, and it's about the parties, and it's about, the marketing, and, it's about, the networking, and all this other stuff that is industry related. This isn't about an industry, this is about our culture.
Very true.
And also, where you go to industry functions and you see our people, that's fine. But this is about a culture and seeing our people and our involvement in the culture. So that's why I say it's Wakanda. It's a whole different feel.
First time we heard that description, huh, Dwayne Edwards? Well, Scoop, thank you.
That's T'Challa right there. That's T'Challa right there.
Round of applause for that. Facts.
All right. Scoop. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
We definitely were not done because we also have someone else here with a tremendous story that we would love and our honor and privilege. And Mr. Wilson Smith, we want to talk to him.
Pass the mic. Come on, Will. Get up here.
Thank you.